We'll start our discussion on the analysis of poems based on the formalist approach by looking at the poem Encounter by Joe Ushie. The poem Encounter by Joe Ushie. What you need to note is that when you are writing the title of a single poem, when you're writing the title of a single poem, you put it in quotation mark, or what we call inverted comma. That's how we write poetry. You're writing the title of a single poem. Whenever you put it in quotation mark, inverted comma. Even the title of a song, the same thing. But when you are writing the collection, the title of the collection, you underline it because that's the title of the book. Like Songs of Our Time, like Yawns and Belches, a collection of poems by Joe Ushie. You underline it because that's the title of the book. But it's a single poem, like Encounter, you do what? You put it in inverted comma, right? Don't forget that. So I've always said that you should come to class with your Bible, and so the poem is quite short, so we read the poem quite short. So, Encounter by Joe Ushie reads, in innocence, I made a U-turn at the wrong place. Hey, you, how are you? Stop there. So you've taken the law into your hands. Stop. In fright, I breathe deep into my left pocket and then breathe out. And he left, taking the law from my hands into his right pocket. That is the poem, Encounter by Joe Ushie. So for the purpose of analysis, we have to write the poem down. So let us take, we have written down the poem. So let us take it again. In innocence, I made a U-turn at the wrong place. Hey, you, how you, stop there. So you've taken the law into your hands. Stop. In fright, I breathe deep into my left pocket and then breathe out. And he left, taking the law from my hands into his right pocket. So if we want to analyze this poem from the formalist perspective, we have to go back to the principles that we gave, beginning with information about the author. Okay, so you can write that down as the first thing that you want to look at. Joe Ushie is a Nigerian poet, an academic from Cross River State. His full name is Joseph Ushie. He is a professor of English at the University of Uyo. He is also the Dean of Arts, the current Dean of Arts in the University of Uyo. He has many poetry collections. The latest being Yawns and Belches. But the collection from which we take this poem, Encounter, is Hill Songs. Hill Songs. Encounter is found in the collection Hill Songs. So the next thing we check is the background to the text, background to the work, background to the poem. The poem Encounter has as its background the corruption in the Nigerian society, contextualized in the policing institution in the poem. The poem Encounter has as its background the general vice of corruption in Nigerian society, but it is contextualized in the police institution in the poem. The background of the poem also lies in the uncivility or the uncivil manner of the Nigerian police force in dealing with citizens, the impoliteness that usually characterizes the relationship between the police and the Nigerian citizens. So, the poem is against the background of corruption and the incivility in the police system in Nigeria. What's the next thing? The subject matter of Ushie's encounter is corruption and incivility by the Nigerian police. The next thing is structure and organization of the point. Structure and organization of the point. Joe Ushie's encounter comprises 4 stanzas. Comprises 4 stanzas. Stanza 1 has 3 lines. That means it is a tercet. It is a tercet. Tercet. Stanza 2 has 6 lines. Stanza 3 has 3 lines, while the last stanza has 4 lines. Encounter by Joe Ushie is written in free verse. Encounter by Joe Ushie is written in free verse. This means that it has no regular rhythm and it has no rhyme. It's in free verse. This means that it has no regular rhythm and it has no rhyme. Encounter by Joe Ushie is also written in enjambment or run-on lines, because an idea in one line is seen to flow into another line. Encounter by Joe Ushie is written in run-on line or enjambment, because an idea in one line is completed in another line. For instance, if you look at in innocence, that line is not complete. That line is not complete. So you get to the end of the line. I made the new sense. I wrong. It's only when you get to it that it has a complete sense. So that is one line. So that is the structure and organization of the poem. Okay, so the next thing is structural analysis. We can say that Ushie's encounter is a narrative poem. In fact, you can add this idea, you can include this idea in the background to the poem. It's a narrative poem because it tells a story. The persona of the poem, that is the voice speaking in the poem, is one of the drivers using the Nigerian roads. One of the drivers using the Nigerian roads, and you know that drivers are among the lower class members of society, classed among the common men. And so the persona is narrating his experience, her experience in the hands of the Nigerian police on the road. But then you need to understand that in the first stanza of the poem, the persona admits his fault. That is that he has committed an offense, a traffic offense. He has done something wrong. God says, in innocence, I made a U-turn at the wrong place. But this crime is not deliberate, like saying I did not know. Okay? But it is left for us to decide whether there is ignorance before the law. We can claim ignorance before the law. So the policeman has seen the offender and confronts him or her in a rude manner by shouting and raising his voice. That's what we see in the second stanza of the poem. It was like, hey, you, or you. Because of the exclamation sign, it shows that, exclamation mark, it shows that the words spoken are laden with emotion. Right? This time, rudeness, anger. Normally, the police is supposed to speak to people with civility, with politeness, like the UK police, right? And not with rudeness, as we see here. Stop there. So that's like the common words that the average Nigerian policeman will use. Stop there. Stop. Stop. Back. Back. Okay. And at that moment, the policeman has even accused the person, tried the person, and determined that the person has committed an offense. So you've taken the law into your hands. You have committed an offense. Stop. So the idea of stopping is to restrain the person from moving because the person is driving. Okay? So you need to understand that context. And because the policeman is raising his voice, in the third stanza, we see that the persona is afraid. Alright? And remember that when you encounter the Nigerian police, anything can happen. So you have to be very careful. Alright? It is possible you might go to meet with your creator that day, depending on how you behave. Alright? So imagine if the policeman is shouting, and you're also shouting back that you know you're right. Okay? So next moment you might see yourself in heaven, singing with the angels. That's if you were a Christian. You will join the angels in heaven, praising God. Right? Because you know you are right. Okay? So you will see that the persona is afraid. And what he does in that stanza tells us that he already knows the language that the policeman will understand. Okay? So there's no need to even say, Oga, I beg, or sorry, sir. Alright? Or even to say, please. He knows that the average Nigerian police personnel is heartless. That's a heart of stone. Okay? Will not listen to please. Not listen to any plea. but there's a language that they understand. All right? And so the person has to speak that language immediately. In that language, you don't need to use words. Okay? You don't need to show working. All right? It's action. And so that stanza dramatizes bribery and corruption in this Nigerian system. It is not only the police that is guilty, but the giver is also guilty. Okay? The giver, the persona is also guilty. Right? So this means that there's something that it's already understood that this is how it is done. This is how we roll. So the persona bribes the policeman. That is what the whole stanza 3 is all about. I breathe deep into my left pocket and then breathe out. Okay? He's simply saying that he takes money from his pocket. And the whole story is concluded in the final stanza. And he left, taking the law from my hand into his right pocket. Okay? So what you need to understand is that the major poetic device deployed in the poem is metaphor. Because metaphor is used to describe the bribe. The poet don't speak directly. That's what we said right from the beginning. They don't say, I gave him money. You know, they have to find more creative ways to say the common things that happen around us every day. That's what has happened in that poem. Okay? So you analyze that, you analyze the poem stanza by stanza. In stanza 1, this is what happens. Stanza 2, this is what happens. Stanza 3, this is what happens. And so on and so forth until the final stanza. So the major theme in Encounter by Joe Ushie's corruption in the Nigerian society bribery and corruption in Nigerian society or among the police. You know, the problem is you cannot really blame the police alone because it takes two persons for corruption to take place. All right? It takes two persons. In the first place, the persona admits that he has committed an offense, but he knows what to do to get out of that. He doesn't want the law to take its course. Okay? For instance, we would not know whether this was a traffic police or whether it was another agency that should have accosted the man, not the police. Because we know that sometimes the police usually go beyond their duties, okay, to doing the work of the road safety, okay. And so the money that the policeman takes probably should have been a fine from the road safety that would have gone into the coffers of the government. But the policeman takes it into his pocket. He will simply say that is his own meal ticket that day. Probably he's not paid well. He's not well paid. Probably he has children that he cannot take care of. So he has to find other means to survive. Okay? So it shows a general breakdown of morality in the nation. That's what the poem depicts. Because the persona is guilty, just as the police person who takes the bribe is guilty. Then another theme that we see in the poem is rudeness, or what I might call verbal assault. We thank God that there's no physical beating, physical assault in this particular poem, but it is common. Apparently, that is because this particular persona knows how to behave. Because probably if he had argued with the police person, maybe the next thing would have been for the gun to be used to hit him, or he would have even been shot. Okay? So that verbal assault is found in stanza 2. You can always analyze that and then show us how, because you need to find evidence in the poem to tell us where you get your theme from. Okay? You cannot get the theme from the theme A. Okay? So you have to tell us where it is in the poem. Then you also have the theme of fear. The third stanza, theme of fear, where the persona bribes the police out of fear. We have the theme of lawlessness. Lawlessness in the poem. Because the whole process here is against the Constitution. It's not what is approved by law. Okay? So the mention of innocence in the first stanza of the poem is ironic, because at the end of the day, at the end of the line, the persona admits that he has done something wrong. We also have irony in the mentioning of the law in the poem, because what is actually practiced in the poem is lawlessness. So the ironic at that level. So the entire poem is built around irony. Another important trope that we need to point out in the poem is euphemism. Euphemism. Bribery and corruption is a grievous offense, right? But the poet narrates it in a euphemistic way, makes it light, mild in its narration. So the entire poem is also built around euphemism, because of the mild way the poet uses in talking about a serious offense like corruption. So please note that. Then we have repetition in words like stop and law. Now, so yes, left and pocket. So repetition is also important. Is always important. So why is it repeated? It's repeated because the stop is repeated because the policeman wants the motorist to be stationary, not to move again. Okay? Law is repeated in order to emphasize its ironic nature in the poem, and to emphasize how they have made a mockery of the law itself. Okay? Because the policeman says, "You've taken the law into your hand." Now, another important thing that you need to note in this poem is dialogue. The use of dialogue. Okay? Use of dialogue, which makes the poem to be dramatic in nature. Makes the poem to be dramatic in nature. Okay, so I said that law is repeated to emphasize the ironic way it is used in the poem. It is an ironic manner in the poem. And to see how the two parties in the poem have made a mockery of the law. Okay? The mockery of the law. So, metaphor defines the way the persona gives the bribe. So the action of bribing is compared to breathing. That's surviving. How you're going to survive that frightful situation is to breathe in and breathe out from your pockets, not from your nose, not from your mouth, not through speaking, not through pleading, but taking a symbolic action. Right? So breathing in this point is symbolic, because that's how you survive in Nigeria. Or so it is assumed. That's how the persona live that place alive. Okay? Anything else? Anything else? Any other subtopic? Okay, so that's how you would analyze the poem Encounter from the formalist perspective. So what you notice about Frank Agimokwede's One Wife for One Man is that it is written in Pidgin. So you can see that poetry does not exclude any language, and the language signals a particular poetry tradition. Which poetry tradition is that? If the poet goes so far as writing in Pidgin, all right? Why is that, and which poetry tradition does that signal? It signals contemporary poetry tradition. I said in class that time that when we were talking about contemporary poetry tradition, that the contemporary poetry is written in very simple language. Contemporary poetry is written in very simple language, because the poet is socially committed. And socially committed poetry is for the masses. And the masses are not usually educated. Some of them are averagely educated. And I said that the poet could even use Pidgin because he wants to do what? Educate, enlighten the people. So the use of Pidgin here is for access to the common person who may not have been a graduate and have gone to school, understand, and how to speak correct English. That's why this poem is written in broken English. It's a good example of contemporary poetry. So you can use Pidgin to write poems because of the kind of message you want to send across, the kind of people you want to address. All right? And the poem is counterculture in seeking to create awareness about the values of polygamy, right? The importance of polygamy and the disadvantages of monogamy, which the new culture has brought, all right? So, I want those who have read the poem to list the disadvantages or the limitations of polygamy that the poet has listed in the poem. Remember, before the white men came, our forefathers practiced polygamy, all right? forefathers practice polygamy. They marry the marriage of more than one wife. They marry 2, 3, or 4. All right? But with the coming of the colonial masters and the introduction of Christianity, they limit people to one wife. What's the first disadvantage of monogamy? That the poet, remember, criticism is perspectival. So we are towing the poet's perspective here based on what he has written down. So what is the first advantage of monogamy? Yes? In the poem, not what you know. Do you have the poem?
Oh, I think less children.
So what's the disadvantage?
Less children.
Okay, the woman might not be able to bear many children. Okay. Okay, so since she's the only woman in the house, she will not have respect for the husband, right? Okay? Because she's the only one, no competition. Okay? She can decide that she's not cooking that day and the husband will be hungry. And the husband will go and beg her. But if there were 2 or 3, if she doesn't cook, the husband will go and eat from the other person. So it's like this monogamy gives women too much power, right? Makes the head to be bigger than the waist in the house. So which other thing? Which other thing? You want us to read again? Okay, let us read the poem. I dey try go church. I don't go for court. So you see that church and court are Western institutions. Oh, you need to understand. The church and the court are what? Western institutions. They were introduced to us by the white men. They are the cultural carriers of the West. Cultural carriers of the West. Okay? So you go to church. The church has its own laws. The pastor will tell you this is what you have to do as you're going to the marriage. It's only you and your wife, no adultery. Alright? And when you go to court, the court will say, the court will bind the 2 of you together for life, although they will allow divorce. But when you know the consequences of divorce, you won't even want to divorce as if you marry in the court. Alright? Because it means half of your wealth will be divided and given to your wife. And then you still pay her more money every month to take care of the children. Right? That's why most men don't want to go to court to marry. They simply go to the tradition because tradition is still good. Tradition is better. Right? So, but you know that the church and the court are Western institutions introduced by the white men to control, as a way of eroding African culture. Okay? Them all they talk about the new culture. The new culture is the modern culture from the West, brought by the missionaries and the colonial masters. So the old culture is African culture, which allows what? Polygamy. But the new culture allows what? Monogamy. One man. And so what do they talk about? Them talk about equality. That's feminism. So this poem is a way of countering the notions of negative feminism. Of course, we have African feminism, but the Western feminism is negative to the African man, to the African person. Okay? Because it makes it appear like the woman should be equal to the man. That's the gospel of feminism. That's feminist gospel from the West. It is to make the man and the woman to be what? Equal. All right? That's what feminism advocates, the equality of the genders. Whereas, even in the church, you are told that the man is the head of the home. The problem with the church is that the man is restricted to only one wife. But in the church, the man is the head of the family. Okay, but in feminism, which is a Western cultural ideology, the man and the woman are seeking equality. All right. So how can two people be equal in the same house? All right. Good. They talk about equality. They mention divorce. Them holaram sote my ear nearly cut. That's like kind of the hyperbole. One wife be for one man. That expression, one wife be for one man, is what we call refrain in poetry. Because it is repeated at regular interval throughout the poem. It's called what? Refrain. At the end of the stanza, that word comes up in different ways, different formats. That's refrain. Before my father got him wife Boku. That means his father and his grandfather, right, had many wives. That's practiced polygamy. That's what that line means. You don't get equality palava. That means in African traditional setting, we practice what we call what? Patriarchy. That's what we call what? Patriarchy. We have a system called patriarchy. Patriarchy means the rule of the father, or the rule of the male, the rule of the father. Meaning that in every family, the man is the head. Okay? So there was no question, there was no equality problem because the woman did not want to be equal with the man in African traditional setting. It was clearly stated that the man was the head of the family. But Western culture wants the woman to be equal as the man. So he said that the father lived well, he lived well. For he be Oga for his own house. So the man is the head of the family. That's the word Oga. The Oga for his own house. So the man of the house is the husband. That was in the traditional setting. But that time done past. That means the missionaries have come. The colonial masters have come. So that time done past. Before white man come with him, one wife or one man. Restricting the man to one wife, changing the entire culture of the African people. Tell me how na woman no go make yanga when he knows say na only him there. She's the only one in the house, so she'll be forming for the husband, right? Suppose say make God no gree be born at all. So what if the woman is barren and not give birth to a child? Right? Of course, we do have instances where some men will say, no problem, I don't care whether we have a child or not. These are, I love you as my wife. but sometimes when the man dies and is about to be buried, so many children will come out from different parts of the world. Alright? Or if it doesn't happen that way, maybe while the man is still alive, one day somebody will appear, a woman will appear with a child. And the woman will be shocked. Okay? So I thought you said that you loved me and you didn't want any other thing apart from me. All right. So, suppose say, may God no agree in born at all. I tell you, that man been there crazy because they need to continue the generation is important for the African man, the African society. Okay? So that's why I said that the man who said that you should marry only one wife is crazy. Because what about the continuity of the family? And that is why most of those men will just pretend in the church that they love their wife, but they have already gone out and have different. Even when they have female children, they will pretend as if they are contented. But if you check, well, they have already gone out to have their male children somewhere. Okay. Because they don't want to have problem with the pastor. Okay? they don't want to chop suspension from the pastor. So there's a whole lot of pretension going on right now in the Christian community. Okay? Good. So you have, just tell me how one wife fit do one man. Okay? Remember, as I said, the African man is inherently polygamous. Might not be able to stay with one woman for an entire lifetime. Okay? So that's why we hear all those stories once in a while. Okay? How you go fit stay all time for him house? For time when belle don't come out. Okay, certain things can't happen smoothly in the family when the woman is pregnant. So is the man supposed to stay like that for 9 months and after? So those are some of the issues. That's what, and he's saying it in a euphemistic manner. Okay, as such subject matter usually mentioned in poetry, using euphemism, right? For how many pikin serve one woman fit born? There's also the number of children, because in the traditional African society, most men usually brag about the number of children that they have. Okay? So if you're like a man, you have 1 or 2 children, a lot of people will say, sit down, I have 20. I have 20 children. Can I understand? I'm not actually saying you should have 20 children because of the economy, okay? It's just that the modern culture has taken over, the modern economy has taken over, so you cannot, even one wife is very difficult to manage in this economy. So, but the person is simply comparing life as it was in the traditional African society and life as it is today. Okay? The change in culture. So one of the things that we can draw from this poem is what? Culture clash. Alright? Culture clash. Culture clash. And it's a culture clash between what? Tradition and modernity. Tradition. It's a major theme in African literature. Tradition versus modernity. So, that's another disadvantage of monogamy. Suppose say, now so woman, your wife, the born. So, another problem is always the gender, because there's what we call male child preference in African society. Male child preference. So that expression raises the theme of male child preference. In African society. So people will be asking, in traditional African society, people will be worried if you don't have a male child, okay? Because the female child was not valued compared to the male child. So it was always very important. In most African literature, you always see that problem. A woman getting into problems because she does not have a male child for the husband. It was when the woman does not have a child at all. Okay? The mother-in-law will come and say, we cannot have two men staying in this house. Okay? How can two men stay in the same house? Okay? The mother-in-law, another woman, can say, cannot have two men in the house. One person has to be a man, the other person has to be a woman. And so one day you sit down and she will bring a woman from the village so that the man will have a child. But if it is only female, the first time female, you say, okay, maybe second time female, it's not good. If female comes third time, the problem has started. Okay? So that's the issue. So the man is supposed to pick another wife and try to get a male child. But if that's not allowed, then there's a problem. Okay? So that's the disadvantage. Suppose your wife knows suppose your wife sabi book, knows sabi make chop. Okay? So that's the wife went to school, is highly educated, is intellectual, so intellectually sound, but cannot prepare food in the house. The thing is that in traditional African people will say, is that one even a wife? Where's the wife that cannot cook? Alright? Because one of the things that make you a wife material is your ability to do what? To function in the kitchen. Alright? In fact, your mother-in-law will not even allow you to go close to the sun if you cannot function well in the kitchen. They will just ask you innocently, just help me prepare white soup. Prepare white soup. Alright? Okay? Or prepare coconut rice. Okay? And you cut the coconut into the rice. Because all your life you've been going to school. You've not been in the kitchen before. You cut the coconut into the rice and put oil and serve. Alright? So that also means that no matter how educated you are, you should try and take lessons in catering, right? Just 1 month, 2 months, you'll be good, right? That's if you are not raised by your parents, because some of these things still count, right? Even though we are in the modern culture, you won't always be telling your husband to buy food from Mr. Biggs and bring home, okay? So suppose your wife sabi book, no sabi make chop. Then how go tell man make he no go out? The man can't cook. The man who can't cook cannot keep a man in the house. Especially if the man finds another man somewhere who can cook. Right? So you know that the man will always be there in that other place. Where good food is found, right? Sake of divorce. That means the easiest way, they will always go to court and say they are not compatible, right? I think there's a term they normally use in the court. Okay? But they are not compatible again. So you see a marriage of 2 weeks, they are already divorced. Alright? And they're already divorced, and then sometimes for fear of society they'll wait for 1 year before they go public. Okay? 1 month, the marriage are scattered. Because divorce is an option in Western marriage. It's difficult to divorce in traditional traditional institution, because if the man feels that the woman is not good in one aspect, he might take another wife. Divorce is difficult because of the mechanism of choice made available for the man. Okay? But in Western culture, there's an offense. There's a term given to, I think they call it bigamy in law. Bigamy, to have a marriage ongoing and then you marry another one. You understand? They call it bigamy. So you have to have the marriage dissolved before you marry that one, otherwise you'll be guilty of bigamy. So that's the point, and that is where we're going to stop our class today. We really wanted to do an analysis.